He's a life coach, stress reduction consultant, and yoga instructor. Stress reduction reduces our connection to our intuition and our natural wisdom, but by using a blend of ancient and modern tools and simple practices, Drake teaches his clients to ground themselves in their deeper power and subtler awarenesses, allowing clarity, resilience, and kindness to flower. In this way, clients access inner resources that ground and center them, even as the world changes. And you can find greater information on Drake at his website. Is it drakepowe.com?
drakepowe.com.
Which has some wonderful classes, many of them even online, which I was inspired by. So Lake Harriet Spiritual Community, please help me welcome Drake Powe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so happy to be back here. This feels like a home away from home for me, so I'm so happy to be back here. Now, I love to ring bells. So I'm going to ring the bell. I'm actually listening carefully. But, one of the things I want to bring up right from the very beginning is that when bells ring, they ring on every level of your consciousness. I mean, we're aware of ourselves at a certain level, but it rings at levels that we're not even conscious of. It's kind of like dreaming. If you're having a dream and the alarm goes off, you hear it in the dream. So here we go, ring the bell. Let's do it again. So to me, this is all about finding agency, finding our power. So I want to suggest that we're very, very powerful, but we're powerful through simple things. So I want to ask you to take a nice deep breath in and make an ah sound. Ah. Just feel it. That was the expression of power. Doesn't that feel good? Everywhere around the world, and I say this regularly, when people come home from a hard day's work, they'll go home and they go, ah. Right? And so we want to bring some of that into our life. We want to bring it into our life because it actually is a heart-opening practice. If you notice where you feel it, one of the major places that you feel it is right here. So when we make that ah sound, we're opening our heart, and we're stepping into the greatest sort of resilience. And I want to suggest that we're stepping into what I'm describing today in terms of our session, and that is kindness as a path to transformation. Kindness is a path of transformation. I'm 62 years old. You know how life, wow, that's so fast. 62. I remember going back through the different ages that I've been through. And by the way, I want to tell you what, the 60s are the best. That is the best. It's the best time of life. What I also want to suggest that every period is the best time of your life if you are in union with it. It's also the most challenging period of life if you feel a discordance with where you're at. But if we frame things in a way that makes us feel like we're winning, the 60s is the best. But I go back, and I remember back in the past, and I remember different things. I don't know if any of you guys remember this, but I used to go to people's houses, and I had phone envy. Like someone would be like in the kitchen, and they have the phone on the wall. Remember the phone on the wall? And sometimes people had a long stretchy cord. Do you remember the stretchy cord? Oh my God, I remember the liberation I felt when I was walking around. Oh, I don't have to stay right next to the phone. And then there was the period where we had the phones with the antenna you would pull out. Same thing. I was like, oh my God, this is a whole new level. But you couldn't hear it when you went outside. I just remember all of these different things. Pet rock, remember that? Fads and different styles. Things go in and out of style. I used to have an afro, a really nice big afro. I come from the Jackson 5 period, right? And they had the best afros, and I was trying to emulate that. I would go in the mirror, and I would look in the mirror, and I would look from every angle because I wanted that perfect, round, almost halo effect, And so, it's so interesting how things go in and out of style. One of the things that some people might think has gone out of style, or maybe a lot of people think has gone out of style, is kindness. I mean, it's gone out of style for a lot of people, I know that. But style is such an interesting thing. Things come back. I see younger people with afros again. Things come back. And I want to suggest to you that one of the greatest things that we can bring back is kindness. Kindness is its own style. It's its own presentation. And kindness is absolutely timeless. Kindness at every period of life. And it's not, we talk about it as humane, but it's much bigger than humane. I love watching animals be kind. Silverback gorillas, they are so unbelievably kind. Chimpanzees are also very, very kind. Not chimpanzees, orangutans are also very kind. Now, chimpanzees, however, are our closest relative of the primates, and they have some issues. They have issues kind of like we do, But, we talk about like we want to act like we know we're right. And I want to suggest to you that one of the things that really disrupts kindness is when we are just absolutely sure that we're right. But, maybe we're only 98% right. That's pretty right. But, chimpanzees and humans share 98% of the same DNA. So 98% maybe is not enough. You wouldn't want to be partners. And so what I want to suggest is we want to develop a different relationship so we find that kindness is not just being nice to people, it's something really much more profound than that. Kindness is a way of looking at life. Kindness is a way of looking at the universe. Kindness is a way of recognizing that you live in a universe that is supportive and that you are safe. When we see people becoming unkind, what's really happening is they're rooted in some sort of fear state. Fear is a contraction. Kindness is an expansion. It's an expansion. It's like joy, joy to the world. So often we see joy represented as a star. A star doesn't limit its shining. And so I want to just give you some, framings for kindness, and I'm very, very interested in hearing what you have to say about elements of kindness. But I just want to suggest some framings of looking at kindness in a different way and recognize that it's much, much more profound and something we want to be working on a regular basis. I feel that we should have, as a curriculum in our schools, stress reduction practice and learning how to calm our nervous system. We should be taught that from the earliest ages. These things are simple to do, not hard. But, if we don't learn to do them, we don't get good at them. I also think finance should be taught in schools. These things are so important in our lives. So, what I'm suggesting is we want to learn to be kind, and part of how we learn to be kind is recognizing why we even want to be kind. Why should I be kind? You see what's going on out here? Why should I be kind? Well, we want to be kind because your authentic self is the very nature of kindness. We want to be kind because moving towards kindness is moving towards yourself. And I want to suggest to you that the roots of kindness is compassion. Now, if you're sitting on a hot burner, you don't have to tell yourself to get off if you realize it. As soon as you realize you're sitting on a hot burner, you will immediately get off. If you're standing too close to the ledge of a cliff, if you're aware of it, you'll step back. If you realize that kindness is your route to transformation, you begin to want to work on kindness on a regular basis and develop it as a skill. One of the framings I have of kindness is kindness, the development of kindness is seeing the world as a mirror. If you go to the mirror and the individual in the mirror has green, like spinach in its teeth, you don't try to clean the mirror. No, you clean it here. When we recognize that the world is a mirror, the world is a metaphor, what we see other people needing to do, we recognize somehow we need to do it ourselves. I want to suggest to you that when people are unkind, it begins as an inner fracture. We think it's starting in the outer world. It actually is starting in the inner world. It's all about how you frame the subject. Why be kind? The great teacher Wayne Dyer, does anyone remember Wayne Dyer? He had a huge effect in my life. In 1976, he came out with a book called Your Erroneous Zones. I was 12 years old. I read it in 1976. And, he had a very interesting story. He supposedly grew up, and by the way, I met Wayne Dyer once. It was so cool. I went to a big presentation he did. There was like 300 people in the room. And he said, well, if anyone wants to talk to me, come up at the end of the presentation. And the presentation ended, and no one went up. And I'm like, well, I'll go talk to Wayne Dyer. So I went up there to talk to him, and he told me something. This was very interesting to me because he was a hero of mine, and I still love him. I see him as almost as a relative. He told me, he said he had never suffered from self-esteem issues. And I was like, whoa. Well, how can you relate to someone like me who was so challenged with self-esteem issues? But it's just interesting. I come at this from a place of healing those issues and chronic management of those issues. But one of the things he also talked about that I thought was very, very interesting is that he had grown up in an orphanage. And he also grew up with a brother who was also in that orphanage. And he said the reason he achieved what he was able to achieve is because he learned to depend on himself. He knew that no one else was going to do it for him. He knew that he had to go out and make things happen. Now, his brother became a major alcoholic, and he said, well, I became a major alcoholic because I had no one to depend on. So they used the same things and went in completely different directions. And so what I'm suggesting to you is that when we understand kindness and really understand its relationship to our life, I remember seeing this guy, he was an elder, and he was playing the guitar, and he couldn't do the fingering. And he began to beat his wrist. He was in a sense of separation. It wasn't the wrist that was the issue, it was that inner sense of separation, that fracture. And so what I'm suggesting is that when we recognize that the world is our body, we change that relationship to want to be in conflict. When we recognize that when we are sending negativity into the world, that it's bouncing back to us. So I want to suggest to you that kindness is recognizing that your life is a whole. And when you recognize your life as a whole, you automatically want to be more kind. Doesn't mean, by the way, kindness is fierce. It is not weakness. Kindness is really great at setting limits. But kindness is deep, deep listening. Kindness is respect. I had a very, very successful theater career. I don't know if you know that. I was in one play my freshman year of college. My role in this play, it was a Greek play, my role was I was the guard in the rear to the left. But if I wasn't in tune with the moment, I could have messed up that play. So what I want to suggest to you is the root of kindness is compassion, which is deep, 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 deep listening. I study a lot of different things. I'm not an actor, but I study acting. And one of the things that they say in order to be a great actor is you need to be a great listener. When you listen deeply, all of a sudden you know what to do. When you recognize that the world is part of you and you're part of the world, when you are coming from authenticity, it fits with the world. And you begin to transform the world. You make the world a kinder place. If you live in a desert, if there's not enough water where you are, and you have a source, that's called an oasis. That's what you are. You are an oasis. You are an oasis in a world that doesn't have enough water. I have so many different heroes. My number one hero is my childhood self. That's kindness. When you recognize that you have the ability for transformation, transmutation, it's alchemy. It's turning ugliness into beauty and recognizing that there's something exactly with what's going on in your life right now that's exactly who you need to be in order to become who you are meant to become. That's kindness. It's framing things like you feel like you're winning. Reframing. You have that ability to reframe. And when you reframe, you change everything. When you realize you're powerful. I tell this story regularly. A lot of you have heard me tell the stories. I probably tell it every time I come, but it's one of my favorite stories. And this is one of the things that happened. I'm at that point in my life where I tell the same stories over and over again. But I tell the story of the woman, she was an Irish-American woman who befriended me when I was in 3rd grade, and I was in a really rough situation, both at home and when I was going around different places. And she said, I see what's happening to you. She said, you can come to my house anytime and be safe. Kindness is so powerful. So powerful. But we have to recognize it. You know, when they say, when you're on the plane, we've all heard this speech. If the thing comes down, you have to put your mask on yourself first. So what I'm saying is kindness is not codependent. It starts with you. It starts with self-compassion. Compassion is bigger than your situation. And when you're bigger than a situation, I was going to get allergy shots, and I had a doctor said to me, he said, hey, can I talk to you, Drake? I was getting shots. I had been going for a couple of years. And he said, can I talk to you? And it was very serious. I was like, wow. When a doctor, you don't think an allergy doctor is going to have a serious talk with you, you know. So when he asked me to come, he said, I want to tell you something. And I'm like, what? He said, you are a mensch. A mensch. I said, what'd you call me? He said, you're a mensch. He said, in my culture, a mensch is a man amongst men, larger than life. That's what you are. You're larger than life. You're bigger than the challenges. And when you recognize you're bigger than the challenges, and that's what we do, we step back. And so we get some perspective. When you have perspective, the blockage is the road to transformation. If we say, yes, I was born for this. I was born for this time. And so is every one of us. So it takes courage to be kind. I'm not talking about getting trampled. I'm talking about listening to your own heart and recognizing that part of kindness is realizing that we work with our nervous system. Kindness is calming your nervous system. And so I want to do some practices that bring us to that. And so I want to suggest that every single day, early in the day, you start off with calming your nervous system. Every single day. Every single day you wake up, I want to encourage you to say some things occasionally to yourself. I begin within. I begin within. I begin again. I begin again. Activating these relationships from coming inside out. The challenge is when we come from outside in. One definition for kindness and how to promote kindness within yourself is when you see the world as a mirror, you become more kind. Because when you see things that don't feel right in the world, you take it in a corresponding way to change something within yourself. But when you see yourself as a mirror for the world, you begin to reflect what the world is bringing to you. You become reactive. So I'm suggesting coming from inside out and recognize that all these powerful words that we talk about, enjoyment, that means joy is coming from inside out. When you're enjoying something, the joy isn't coming to you. You're bringing it to that meal, to that situation. Delight is another word that means shining from inside out. All these words are actually talking about agency. When we really look at these words, they support us in understanding how to promote them. When we look at the word resilience, the prefix re means to do again. Zilliance means to notice excellence that other people miss. So when you're becoming resilient, what you're doing is stepping into mindfulness. You're seeing beauty. You're realizing that joy is more than happiness. Joy is a deep sense of meaning. And joy is recognizing that if you curse your life, you don't love yourself. So, I want to do some practices to promote this, but I want to open the conversation up. Does anyone have any statements about kindness or elements about kindness? Is kindness important? Why is kindness important? Does anyone want to say anything about kindness? Or does someone want to say, well, this is an open conversation. Maybe you feel that kindness is the wrong path, whatever feels right. I'm interested. Does anyone have anything they want to say about this subject of kindness today?
Wonderful. And if you might raise your hand, I'll get you the mic so that we can capture on the YouTube.
Hi, thanks, Drake. That's really great stuff and brings a lot to mind. Part of it for me, it seems like it links to love too, and like being present, like you're talking about really listening to what's needed. And then compassion is kind of that sense of what's needed. And then kindness is the act.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think I have a question, and it's important to be present and sense into what really is needed and what that person's willing to accept. Maybe it's needed, but they're not willing to accept that. So that's important to sense into too, if we have something to offer. My question is from a self point of view when we're giving, if we're really in tune, there's a lot of need out there. And it's we can't take care of every need in the world. So how do we stay resourced without draining ourselves too much? How do we discern that?
I love that. That's a great question. Well, and it's a question that has many different answers. So, one of the things that we want to understand, I call it the pillars of creation. The pillars of creation. So what I'm suggesting is each of us is a pillar of creation. Each of us has a mission. There's a multiplicity of missions that need to be done. But you have a mission. And so what I'm suggesting is that this is an education. If you look at the word education, it originally meant an intuition is another one of those, intuition. It means paying for inner education. We pay with attention. Pay attention. And so when we calm down, so our mission every day is to calm down and soothe our nervous system and then begin to listen to that intuition, because it's going to have a mission for you. Another person's mission might be caring for preschool kids. That's an important mission. Another person's mission might be the ecology. That's an important mission. Another one might be social justice, domestic, abuse. There's children. There's a trillion issues. But if you listen to your intuition, you're going to have one that's for you. And when you are fulfilling your intuition, when you are fulfilling your mission, you are supporting everyone else in fulfilling theirs. So one of the things I want to suggest is the healing circle. The world is a healing circle if we frame it. This is a healing circle, and I love circles. I can see you guys. There's a lot of you that are the same as me. I was not into authority. I grew up with oppressive authority, crushing authority, unfair. And so I began to realize I didn't really want to be anyone else's authority either. Again, if we're not healed within, whatever we have becomes part of how we create damage as well as part of how we create healing. And so what I'm saying is that when you're in a circle, you might have an 8-year-old at that part of the circle, but that 8-year-old can see elements that you can't see because you can't see what's behind you. So everyone is the leader of the circle. The circle supports us. It's a matrix. And so when you fulfill your mission, you're supporting the others in the circle fulfilling theirs. So thank you so much for that question. There's some other elements. Go ahead to this young lady, please. Thank you. I want to say one more thing about this, by the way. I want to talk about the difference between primary and secondary emotions. Primary emotion is when you feel an emotion. Say you feel anxiety. First of all, I want to suggest that emotions are not identifications. They are signals. They are designed to get you moving, emotion. But when we see them as a signal, when we identify with the emotion as who we are, some part of us, our homeostasis begins to try to make that emotion be there all the time. It becomes your baseline. So that's when emotion actually becomes a master rather than a tool or a servant. So we have emotion, the primary emotion, which is anxiety. We have the secondary emotion, which is where we feel anxious about anxiety. Does that make sense? Has anyone ever had that before, experience? Yeah, I like it, yeah. And that's the beginning of what people describe as panic attacks. because we're in this echo chamber, and it's wah, 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 and it's just reverberating. And then all of a sudden what ends up happening is we live in a bubble of that emotion. Everywhere we go, we see things that reinforce it. So if we learn to interrupt the secondary emotion, what ends up happening is that we find that the primary emotion is there to support us. Anxiety is there to get you to listen more deeply to yourself, not to focus on it. So breaking the interruption of the secondary emotion, what it does is it turns down the primary emotion to the point that you're able to get the message. And that's called wholeness. And so the word wholeness, content, that's what the word content means. It means inner wholeness. Contentment means you're working for inner wholeness. To be content is to be kind. The word kind comes from the word kin, family. But we all know family ain't no joke, man. There's a lot of unkindness going on a lot of times in family. Most of our childhood trauma comes up in family. So this thing of kindness is about not just healing our heart now, it's about healing the past. Do you want to say something about kindness, Miss?
Oh, yeah. I have this, I think I'm a pretty kind person, and I have this desire to love everyone. But then there's certain individuals or people that are not offering me respect. And I wonder, is it appropriate to be kind to people who are being disrespectful to you? Or, how do you act in a kind manner and also say no, like that's not okay, or I'm sorry, I don't want to be your friend, like how is it our role to always be kind to everybody, even if we don't want to hug them or we don't want to shake their hand, or
maybe not even want to know them anymore,
or maybe you don't want to be around them anymore? Yeah.
Well, there's a few things about that. We want to recognize that, again, so let's just imagine, that someone was pointing at you in the room right now. Or maybe there was something pointing down. You could see the top of your head. Or maybe it's above the building, like you're in a helicopter and you're looking down, you're pointing down. That's where I am. And then you go higher up, and now you're seeing the whole metropolitan area, and you look, and that's where I'm at. And you go further out, now you're looking down at the whole planet Earth, and you're pointing at, that's where I am, that's me, that's where I'm at. And then you're at the solar system, that's me, and the Milky Way. What I'm saying is that this whole world is your body. So finding a way to be at peace with the world is finding a way to be at peace with those people as well. So what I'm saying is that by us learning how to get perspective, by us learning how to pull back a little bit, when we're in the bubble of the situation, it's very hard to understand how to handle those situations, because we're so in it that it feels overwhelming to us. So what I'm saying is that when we get a little perspective and go back far enough, so for instance, like as an example, and that's such a great question right now. And I get that question or variations of that question a lot right now, because a lot of people are not okay with other people, they see other people doing. Yeah, I'm gonna come right to you after this. And so what I'm suggesting is that if we have the ability to get back far enough, calm down and get a picture of our whole life, get into our wholeness. So, this is a roundabout way to answer the question. I was standing in St. Paul, and I was standing next to Charlie Brown. It was a statue or like a figure, and he was a life-size statue. And his body had to be at least a third head. Right? I mean, oh man, it must be hard to move around the world with your head that big. So contentment is about wholeness. And so what I'm saying is that when we have an issue with an individual or people or groups doing things that we feel are very disrespectful, if we are only dealing with it with our head, we don't find the answer. But if we get into our body, if we calm our body, if we do somatic practice, if we can calm the nervous system, if we become clear about what kind of world we live in, then all of a sudden we have an intuition that answers the question for us. Suddenly we know, oh, I'm not willing to do this. And then we step into a different kind of kindness. Sometimes kindness is telling someone, I can't let you treat me this way. Sometimes the greatest kindness is to set a limit that may be hard for the other person. So we want to recognize, again, kindness is not codependence where we don't pay attention to our own self. Kindness is a deep compassion that starts with compassion for ourselves first, and then radiates out to everyone else. And then, kindness stimulates action. So what I'm suggesting is that by listening deeply, really, really paying attention, all of a sudden you're going to get an intuition that gives you an idea what to do. And it's going to be one that has you honoring yourself. One of the reasons that the things that come up in our life is that we are in the process of healing childhood trauma. So when we, have kindness and compassion for ourselves first, what ends up happening is we begin to honor ourselves, which actually heals our childhood. Does that feel okay? Do you have any other questions or anything else about that? Sorry? Are you referring to me? Yes.
I think you bring up a good point that it's childhood trauma. That's possible. I don't know that it's trauma. It's more like responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I was very responsible as a kid, and so it's like this is a family member that's asking me to continue to be responsible for a particular thing.
Yeah.
And they're not taking responsibility. So it could be childhood stuff, yeah.
So I don't want to, I'm not pointing everything to childhood or anything. But what I am saying is that some part of us ends up feeling better about how much we used to have to do by setting limit now, So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think someone else, and then we'll come up here to you. So you'll be next.
I'm a first grade teacher,
Yes.
and I just want to express gratitude for everything that you're saying, because I think this idea of being a proponent of kindness and love and respect and humane problem solving and creating that environment and mindfulness, teaching children how to come back to their bodies, and it can be very lonely work. And I think the reason I feel very grateful for being here today is I feel less alone in that work right now.
Oh, I love it.
So I just wanted to say thank you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And by the way, don't get it twisted. Everything can get better. But part of how it gets better is not focusing on outcomes, focusing on output. So I love that because you are not alone. And it's really important to get regularly, because we're all leaders in this room. It's important to get into healing circles in which you can feel a sense of connection. And then we go back out and work with people who are not really in that space. So I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your work, because what I'm telling you is that you have a greater effect than you realize. Thank you. We have this individual right up here, please. Thank you.
I'm making it.
And then we'll take maybe one more question, and then we'll do some practice because we're going to be getting late. I could hang out with you guys all day. I love it. Yes, please.
It's not a question, it's a thought that was coming, and it's not fully fleshed out.
Yeah, please.
But as you were speaking, I was tuning in and understanding a parallel between kindness and generosity.
Yes.
And also to be, at least for me, from my perspective of this moment, understanding to be able to give kindness and compassion to another, even if you don't agree with them, see their perspective, it has to come from a place of contentment and wholeness within, because if not, there's this level of expectation of like, oh, I need to receive this back, because if it doesn't, then it's completing me in some way, but that's not compassion. That's not kindness. It's filling a place of emptiness and wounding within ourselves. And so just going back to other pieces that you mentioned, it's really about healing and integrating that wounding, that childhood place within us that's looking for something from another, as opposed to, how are you doing today? And just holding that space without expecting them to hold it for you. Granted, reciprocity is needed in life and energy, right? And when we can find that from ourselves, we're not looking for that kindness in another.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Yes, I love that. And again, this is how you can heal the world. By learning to be more kind to yourself, you can heal the world. But you just have to be patient. Okay, we'll take one more and then we'll do a little bit of practice here.
Just a comment. I have an idea that kindness is something that has existed for thousands of years among us humans, because there's evidence that in a cave somewhere in the East, a community lived in a cave, and there was a person who had a lot of congenital problems. And there is evidence that even though life was extremely dangerous, you stepped outside, there would be hyenas and all kinds of stuff. This person was kept alive and cared for until he finally died, even though he was useless to the tribe. He was actually a weight on the tribe. But they all fed him and so on, took care of him, and it was proven that he was already born with the problems. He couldn't go out and hunt. So the idea is that kindness is innate within us if we will just listen to it.
Yes. I want to suggest to you that when you calm down, you get to your authenticity. And your authentic self, by the way, I saw Dick Van Dyke, the great Dick Van Dyke. I was a kid of the 60s, 70s, so I watched a lot of the Dick Van Dyke Show and Gilligan's Island, okay? So I watched a lot of that stuff, right? But I saw the great Dick Van Dyke. This was about a year ago, so he was only 99 at that point. And he said, I don't know why, but I just feel hopeful. I feel like everything's going to be all right. So I want to suggest that your authentic self is, when you have the ability to pay attention to subtlety in the midst of intensity, this is called self-mastery. And so when you're in contact with subtlety, which is your authentic self, you get in contact with your intuition and you start feeling a little bit hopeful. You feel a sense of peace and hopefulness. This is not something you make happen, it's something you allow to happen. So thank you very, very much.
There's one more thing. There's evidence, too, that even 250,000 years ago, people cared enough to put a flower by a burial, which is amazing.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay, this is
And
so...
as you say, kindness is our nature within.
It is. It's wholeness. It's wholeness. So let's do a little bit of practice here real quick. So I'm going to ask you, so one of the things I would ask you to do, and so, again, we've talked about this in the past, write a list of 10 state changers. Your state is the bubble that you feel stuck in emotionally sometimes. When you develop the ability to pop that bubble, you develop the ability to change your life and thereby change the world. Okay, so what I'm saying is that we want to activate these state changers. Write them down, things that calm and soothe your nervous system. Use of Epsom salt is a great one. Most of us are magnesium deficient. Using Epsom salt is a really, really great way to calm your nervous system. Walking is a great way to calm your nervous system. Walking on a regular basis. I'm not saying do it for yourself. I felt like I was the world's biggest chicken. But if there was someone else who was getting bullied, I'd had this courage. So when you're doing it not just for yourself, when you're doing it for the world, you're not healing your relationship to anxiety for yourself. You're doing it for the whole wide world. And the anxiety that you're experiencing is not just yours. Some of it is the anxiety of the world spilling into your life. So you take it on as a mission. Your ability to change the world is in your ability to change your relationship with your own emotions. So when you do things, when you are no longer fearful about fear, or you're at least less fearful. See, that's one of the things. All we're trying to do is make progress. Progress is success. So walking is a great state changer. You know, Epsom salt, cooking is a great state changer. Cleaning for some people is a great state changer. You know, especially like layering these things on top of each other. Cooking while you're listening to really good music. You know, doing things to care for yourself, using Epsom salt, burning incense, lighting candles. Make it special. Bring ritual into your life. Why not light a candle every night before dinner? These are all elements of kindness. These are all elements of elevating your sense of self-worth. Some part of us sees us doing these things for ourselves and feels a greater sense of worth. Positive playlists. Putting together music that makes you feel good. Soothing music. I want to ask you to consider putting together music. Cello is very soothing for the nervous system. There is a great piece called Afterglow by Michael Hoppe, Hoppe. Podcasts, YouTube channels, positive YouTube channels. What's that one? Oh yeah, mine. I have a great YouTube channel. It's called Touching the Edge. Touching the Edge. Okay? So I want to also ask you to consider gathering micro practices. I consider a micro practice as any practice that you can do from 0 to 2 minutes. Oh, I see that we're at the end. Okay? So let's do this one practice right now because we're at the end of our time. So I'm going to ask you just to breathe in for a count of 4. Exhale out for a count of 6. Through the nostrils. Inhale 4. Exhale 6. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale 4. Exhale 6. I'm going to ask you to take a breath. Sigh it out. Just another breath. I'm just asking you to hum. So inhale. Inhale. I'm going to ask you to take your right hand. This is the very last thing I'm going to ask you to do. Take your right hand over the energetic heart. Now I'm going to ask you to say this only if it feels right to you. Don't do it if it doesn't feel right. Right over the center of your chest. Not to the side, but right over the center. I'm going to ask you, this is your line. I want to ask you to pretend like you're an actor on Broadway and you have one line in this play. And this line is, only if you feel good, okay about it, I am safe. I'm going to ask you to say this 3 times, mix up the cadence, say it in different ways. I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. Breathe. I'm going to ring the bell. I'm going to ask you to listen carefully. Now, one thing, our intuition always knows the right thing. We always get the right card. I'm just going to ask you to say when, please. Just tell me when. Now. Okay. So this is the card that came up, and I want to say this is exactly the right card. The card is sisterhood and brotherhood. Community. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, isn't that wonderful to sit here and, yeah, please. And if you enjoy these things, do go find the YouTube. It's important to capture the questions on audio and stuff so that when you share this with a friend or somebody on YouTube or whatever, that we capture it all. And each week is like this, and just as wonderful and just as challenging for us. And this is the part where I recall that I forgot my announcements page over here. And I think there's a point at which we do offering. And Lake Harriet is funded by your donation. In a moment, ushers will be passing baskets that include a Venmo QR. That's right, we're high tech. We have Venmo. Your donations are the primary source of income that allow us to keep the lights on and bring all these amazing speakers and experiences to you. We do invite you as well to be a partner with us in supporting the spiritual community. If you go to the website, become a member, it helps us get funding and do all the stuff and keep the lights on. Also, I forgot to say it before, but welcome to Paradise. You're in Linden Hills by Lake Harriet, and it's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. You can get down and experience some sun and some walk. Go get some food. I failed to eat breakfast, and I'm going to go get a little bite. But welcome to the community. It's a wonderful place to be on a Sunday. And very shortly, it'll be a wonderful day to be on Sunday and then go down to the beach afterward. So welcome, and this is the point where we would do offering.
I believe in power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in power of love. Ooh, I believe in power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in power of love. We don't know what's coming, but we can help shape what's ahead. Kindness as our currency, commonwealth's in our hands. So give a little love, give a lot, don't stop. A helping hand makes the world go round. That's more than enough. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love, power of love. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness, kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. Look up now, people, but keep your ears.
Stick around, we'll have a dance party after. I might invite you to raise your hands and repeat after me. God's perfect love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Blessed be. Aho. Now, as we like to do at Lake Harriet Spiritual Community, let's make a circle. We like circles. And Drake is going to send us off to the day. We're going to say something inspirational and throw it up. And Drake, I don't know without checking your schedule. People are welcome to stick around after and talk, right? And have some community. I'm going to jump in here.
So I just want to offer just a couple of very small practices right now. And it's what I call a speed bump. And there's two speed bumps I want to offer, and you use it right when you feel the first sprout. So one of them is no shame, no guilt, no judgment. So I'm going to ask you if you feel comfortable with it, say it 3 times. No shame, no guilt, no judgment. No shame, no guilt, no judgment. No shame, no guilt, no judgment. Just breathe. We can check people and not step into those states of mind. Now this is the second one. This is the last one. I'm going to ask you to bring this into your day. Well, first of all, I'm going to ask you to bring the phrase "I am" into your day. Just occasionally say that phrase "I am" and know its subtlety. But this last speed bump is "I love my life." I'm going to ask you to say it 3 times. I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. Namaste. Thank you.